Change. It's one of those words we love to say but hate to live through, because change, real change, doesn't just happen around you, it happens in you. And here's the thing, most people don't resist change because they don't want better. They resist it because they don't recognize who they might have to become to receive it. But what if I told you that everything you've been praying for, working for, hoping for, it's already waiting on you. It's just waiting on the version of you that has the power to change. Today, I want to talk about that power, not the kind that moves mountains, but the kind that moves you. ChatGPT said, you can't step into new power with an old identity. That truth sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest realities to accept. Because before you can ever walk into something new, you have to release something old. And the hardest thing to release is often the version of you that no longer fits where you're going. Every breakthrough requires a breaking, and that breaking is not punishment, it's preparation. See, most people pray for change, but few prepare for transformation. We want God or life or destiny to give us new opportunities, new relationships, new positions, but we often try to receive them wearing the same mindset, the same insecurities, the same habits that were formed in an old season. The truth is, your next level doesn't recognize your old identity. You can't walk into your promise still carrying the posture of your past. Think about it. Every time you grow, something in you has to die. Every new chapter demands a new character. And sometimes that means letting go of the identity that was built for survival so you can step into the identity designed for success. Because the you that learned how to endure pain, how to hide weakness, how to play small just to be accepted, that version of you was necessary then, but it's not sustainable now. We all have identities that were shaped by our environments. The one who had to be strong for everyone, the one who stayed quiet to avoid conflict, the one who settled because they were afraid to be alone. Those roles kept us safe once, but now they're standing between us and the life we were created to live. The irony of transformation is that the thing that used to protect you can become the thing that imprisons you if you don't recognize it's time to evolve. Power comes when you accept that who you've been is not all you are. There is more in you, more wisdom, more authority, more capacity, but it's buried under layers of old stories and self-perceptions that no longer serve you. The moment you begin to see yourself differently, the world has to respond differently. Identity is the lens through which you interpret everything. And if the lens is old, even blessings will look like burdens. When you change how you see yourself, you change what you allow, what you attract, and what you pursue. That's why the enemy of progress isn't always fear. Sometimes it's familiarity. We stay loyal to what's known, even when it's limiting, because the unknown feels unsafe. But real power isn't found in safety, it's found in surrender. When you surrender the old identity, the one built on proving, pleasing, or performing, you make room for your authentic self to emerge. You can't be powerful and pretending at the same time. Power demands truth, and truth requires that you confront who you've been pretending to be. It's not about shame, it's about awareness. You can't transform what you won't acknowledge. When you're honest enough to say, this version of me is no longer aligned with my destiny, that honesty becomes the key that unlocks your next level. Let me tell you, your destiny has a dress code. Every environment has one. If you walk into a royal palace dressed in rags, you may be allowed to enter, but you won't be recognized as royalty. In the same way, you can be in the right place, but if you still carry the mindset of your past, you won't have the confidence or clarity to occupy it fully. That's why God doesn't just bless you, He prepares you. He refines your identity so that when opportunity arrives, you don't shrink, you stand. And that refinement isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it feels like rejection, isolation, or loss. But those aren't punishments, they're invitations. God will often separate you from environments that affirm your old identity so you can discover the truth about who you are without the noise of who you were. You may lose some relationships, some habits, even some dreams, but what you're gaining is worth far more. You're gaining alignment with your authentic self. That's the power of transformation. It doesn't just change what you have, it changes who you are. The goal isn't to get more, it's to become more. Because when you become more, you naturally attract more. You don't have to chase opportunities when you become the kind of person that opportunities chase. Think about a caterpillar. It doesn't become a butterfly by trying to fly harder. It becomes a butterfly by surrendering to the process of transformation. It literally dissolves into something unrecognizable before it reemerges with wings. And when it comes out, it can't go back even if it wanted to. That's the kind of change we're talking about, the kind that makes your old self obsolete. But here's the secret. The butterfly was always in the caterpillar. The potential was never missing. It was simply waiting for the right season of surrender to be revealed. The same is true for you. The power you seek is already within you, but it's dormant beneath layers of limitation, fear, and conditioning. When you let go of who you thought you had to be, you make room for who you truly are. You can't step into new power with an old identity, because power is attracted to authenticity. Power doesn't flow through pretense. It flows through truth, integrity, and alignment. When your external life matches your internal truth, you become magnetic. People feel your presence before you even speak, not because of arrogance, but because you've come into agreement with your purpose. And this journey isn't about perfection, it's about permission. Giving yourself permission to evolve, permission to stop apologizing for outgrowing what no longer fits, permission to let old versions of yourself rest in peace so the new you can rise in power. You might have to walk away from some things that once defined you: a title, a relationship, a way of thinking, but that's the price of becoming. The power you're praying for can't dwell in the same space as the insecurities you're protecting. You can't carry both purpose and pretense. One will always suffocate the other. So today, ask, what part of me am I still holding on to that can't come with me where I'm going? What identity am I still defending that's no longer aligned with my destiny? Because the moment you identify that, you've found the doorway to your next level. You don't need to force change, you need to align with it. The river of your destiny is already flowing, it's just waiting for you to stop resisting. Let go of who you were told you had to be and step boldly into who you were created to become. Because you are not who you were. And that's the proof that transformation is possible. The power to change is already in you. But that power responds to identity. When you finally recognize who you are, you'll realize that the limits you thought were around you were really just the limits within you. And when that revelation hits your spirit, nothing, not fear, not failure, not your past, can stop you from walking fully in the power that's been waiting for you all along. Discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. We live in a world that constantly tells us to pursue comfort, to find ease, to chase pleasure, to avoid pain at all costs. Everything in modern culture is designed to make life smoother, faster, and easier. But the truth is, nothing great has ever come from comfort. Growth doesn't happen in the soft places. Purpose doesn't form in the easy seasons. Everything powerful that's ever been birthed in nature, in destiny, in you, came through some kind of discomfort. Look at creation itself. The seed must be buried in darkness before it can sprout. The baby must be pushed through pain before it can breathe. Even the butterfly has to wrestle its way out of the cocoon, because that struggle is what gives its wings strength. If you cut the cocoon open to make it easier, you don't set the butterfly free, you kill it. The same is true for us. When we avoid discomfort, we rob ourselves of development. There's a process to becoming, and that process is rarely comfortable. It's the space between what was and what will be, the place where everything familiar is gone, but what's next hasn't fully arrived yet. It's the wilderness season, where God strips away your crutches so you can learn to walk on faith. It's the fire that burns away what's weak so that what's pure can emerge. It's the tension between who you were and who you're becoming, and in that tension, transformation happens. But here's the thing, discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It might mean you're finally doing something right, because the moment you step out of your comfort zone, your old patterns start to panic. The ego screams, fear rises, doubt whispers. Everything in you that's been comfortable with mediocrity starts to fight for survival. But that resistance isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of progress. It means you're touching the edges of your growth. Discomfort exposes what's been dormant. It brings hidden fears, buried insecurities, and unhealed wounds to the surface, not to destroy you, but to deliver you. You can't heal what you don't feel. So when discomfort shows up, it's life's way of saying there's something here that needs your attention. It's an invitation to confront what you've been avoiding. The problem is, most people run from that invitation. They numb it with distractions, bury it under busyness, or spiritualize it away. But you can't pray your way around discomfort. You have to walk through it. Because what you don't face, you forfeit. Every time you avoid discomfort, you delay your destiny. But every time you lean into it, you unlock a new level of power. Think about the moments in your life that changed you the most. They probably weren't the easy ones. They were the seasons where you cried, questioned, stretched, and maybe even broke. But those were the moments that built you. You learned to trust God in ways you never had to before. You discovered strength you didn't know existed. You became more compassionate, more focused, more grounded. Discomfort doesn't just shape your character, it reveals it. When you're comfortable, you can maintain appearances. You can fake confidence. You can hide behind your title, your routine, or your success. But when life becomes uncomfortable, all of that falls away. You find out what's real. You discover the depth of your faith, the truth of your values, the authenticity of your vision. Discomfort is the great clarifier. It reveals who you are and what you truly believe. And if you stay with it, if you let it teach you instead of terrify you, it will transform you. Because transformation is not a single event, it's a continual process of shedding what's no longer you so that what's true can emerge. Every time you face discomfort with courage, you're telling the universe, I'm ready for more. And life responds to that energy. Opportunities open, wisdom expands, strength multiplies. Even in scripture, every major transformation came through discomfort. Moses had to leave the palace and face the wilderness before he could lead a nation. David had to survive caves before he could sit on a throne. Jesus had to endure a cross before he could reveal resurrection. The pattern is consistent glory always follows grief. Power always follows pressure. The promise always follows the pain. That's why when discomfort shows up, your first question shouldn't be, why is this happening to me? But what is this producing in me? Because sometimes the pain you're feeling isn't punishment, it's promotion. God is stretching your capacity because He knows what's coming requires more from you. You're being prepared, not punished. Discomfort grows your endurance. It trains your emotional muscles. It refines your focus. It forces you to let go of what's not essential so you can carry what truly matters. There's a version of you that only emerges under pressure. Just like gold, your value is revealed in the fire. The refining process doesn't create gold, it reveals it. The heat burns away everything that isn't pure. In the same way, discomfort burns away fear, pride, and self-doubt, not to destroy you, but to expose your essence. And here's what's beautiful. Once you realize that discomfort has purpose, you stop resisting it. You start to recognize it as a signal that something powerful is happening. You begin to lean in instead of running away. Because you understand that discomfort is the evidence that growth is taking place. Let's be honest. Comfort feels good, but it doesn't fulfill you. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. There's a part of you that's been waiting to be stretched to step into something bigger, riskier, more authentic. But you can't have expansion without stretching, and stretching will always feel uncomfortable. That's how you know you're growing. So when you feel discomfort in your relationships, your calling, your mindset, pause before you panic. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to birth in me? Because the discomfort may not be a sign that you're off track. It may be proof that you're right where you need to be. When the seed pushes against the soil, it probably feels like the end, but it's actually the beginning. The same soil that once buried it becomes the platform that supports its growth. You might feel buried right now, but you're not buried, you're planted. And planted things are designed to grow. Transformation requires trust. You have to trust that even when you can't see progress, something powerful is happening beneath the surface. You have to trust that the pressure you're feeling isn't meant to crush you, but to shape you. You have to trust that the discomfort isn't forever. It's just the labor before the birth. Because here's the truth. You can't pray for growth and run from growing pains. You can't ask for strength and avoid the wait. You can't desire transformation but despise the process. Discomfort is the bridge between who you are and who you're called to be. And the only way to cross it is to walk through it step by step, day by day, with faith as your compass. Eventually, the very thing that once made you uncomfortable will become your new normal. What used to stretch you will now feel natural. That's the beauty of transformation. What once felt impossible becomes instinctive. But to get there, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable long enough to evolve. So don't curse your discomfort, celebrate it. It's proof that you're in motion. It's evidence that you're alive, that you're becoming. Every ache is an announcement that something new is being born in you. And when you finally come out on the other side, you'll realize that the discomfort didn't break you, it built you. You'll look back and thank God for every season that stretched you, every moment that tested you, every challenge that forced you to grow. Because without those moments, you wouldn't have discovered your strength, your faith, your power. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your evolution in disguise. It's the fire that forges greatness, the soil that nourishes growth, the path that leads to transformation. So the next time life feels uncomfortable, don't run, lean in, breathe, trust the process. Because discomfort is not the end of your story, it's the birthplace of your becoming. Change doesn't start with what you do, it starts with what you believe. So often when people talk about transformation, they talk about behavior. They talk about habits, discipline, routines, and actions. And yes, all of those things matter. But action without belief is like building a house without a foundation. You can put in all the effort you want, but if your internal system doesn't support what you're trying to build, it will eventually collapse. Real change, lasting change, always begins on the inside. Everything you do flows from what you believe. What you believe about yourself, about life, about God, about what's possible. Belief is the invisible architecture of your destiny. It shapes how you see, how you respond, and how you dream. Two people can face the exact same situation. One sees opportunity, the other sees impossibility, not because of the circumstance, but because of the belief behind the lens. That's why transformation requires more than a new plan. It requires a new perspective. You can't walk into a new season carrying the same old story about who you are. The story you tell yourself becomes the script you live by. If deep down you still believe you're not enough, not worthy, not capable, not chosen, no amount of external action can override that internal belief. You'll keep self-sabotaging every good thing that tries to enter your life. Belief is powerful because it sets the boundaries for what you think is possible. If you believe you're destined for mediocrity, you'll never reach for greatness. If you believe that pain defines you, you'll never imagine freedom. If you believe that change is too hard, you'll never try. But if you believe that you are more than what you've been through, that God's power is working in you, that new possibilities are not only available but designed for you, everything shifts. The battle for change is not external, it's internal. Before you can change your habits, you must change your heart. Before you can change your routine, you must renew your mind. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Not by striving, not by trying harder, by renewing. That means replacing old beliefs with new truth. It means allowing your thoughts to align with your destiny instead of your history. The mind is the gatekeeper of transformation. Every limitation you've ever felt started as a thought that you believed. Somewhere along the way, someone said something about you. Maybe they told you you'd never make it, that you weren't smart enough, talented enough, or worthy of love, and you believed it. And once you believed it, it became your reality. Not because it was true, but because your belief gave it power. Belief gives power to whatever it touches. That's why fear feels so strong, because belief is fueling it. Fear is faith in the wrong direction. It's belief in what could go wrong instead of what could go right. But when you start to redirect your belief toward truth, faith begins to rise. And faith is the seed of transformation. Change begins when you dare to challenge what you've believed about yourself. When you start asking, who told me that? Where did that idea come from? Is that really true? Because half of what we believe about ourselves isn't truth. It's trauma. It's the residue of rejection, the echo of disappointment, the memory of moments when we felt small. But your past can't be your prophet. You can't let old pain define new potential. You have to believe again, believe bigger, believe differently. That's where change starts. Every great shift in history started with someone believing something new. Before there was innovation, there was imagination. Before there was manifestation, there was mindset. Belief is the birthplace of creation. When you believe something deeply, your actions naturally align with it. That's why forcing change rarely works, because forced behavior without a foundation of belief is temporary. You can change your habits for a season, but if your mind hasn't changed, you'll eventually revert. But when your belief system shifts, your behavior follows effortlessly. You don't have to convince yourself to live differently. You simply do, because your identity has caught up to your intention. Let's say you believe you're unworthy of love. You might act confident, but deep down, that belief will cause you to choose relationships that reinforce your unworthiness. You'll tolerate mistreatment because your belief system tells you that's what you deserve. But when your belief changes, when you start to know your value, your worth, your divine identity, suddenly the same situations don't fit you anymore. You stop chasing validation because you found conviction. You stop settling because you've discovered identity. Belief shifts everything. When you believe you are called, your confidence changes. When you believe you are equipped, your posture changes. When you believe your past doesn't disqualify you, your perspective changes. Belief determines how much of your potential you actually access. But here's what's important to understand. Belief isn't built by accident. It's cultivated. It's shaped through what you focus on, what you say, what you listen to, and what you surround yourself with. Faith comes by hearing, which means your environment is constantly programming your belief system. If you're always surrounded by doubt, negativity, and limitation, it will erode your confidence. But if you intentionally feed your faith through truth, through prayer, through community, through vision, your belief will grow stronger and your life will follow. There's a reason Jesus always asked people, do you believe before performing miracles? Because belief was the doorway to power. He didn't just look for need, he looked for faith. Because power responds to belief. You can't manifest what you don't believe you can have. God's promises require your participation, and belief is your yes to destiny. So when you're trying to change something in your life, don't start by asking, what should I do? Start by asking, what do I believe? Because if you fix the root, the fruit will follow. You can change the behavior 100 times, but if the belief underneath it stays the same, the pattern will repeat. That's why some people go from relationship to relationship, job to job, city to city, and still feel the same emptiness because the belief driving the behavior never changed. You have to confront your inner narrative. What do you really believe about yourself when no one's watching? When the applause fades, when the success settles, do you believe you're still enough? Because true transformation doesn't come from what others say about you. It comes from what you believe about yourself when the noise is gone. And belief isn't just mental, it's spiritual. It's an act of agreement. When you choose to believe truth over lies, you're aligning your spirit with possibility. You're saying, I agree with what God says about me more than what my past says about me. That agreement unlocks power. Because you can't walk in what you don't agree with. You can't manifest promises you secretly doubt. Belief bridges the gap between intention and manifestation. Once your belief changes, your energy shifts. You start speaking differently. You start walking differently. You start expecting differently. And the universe, or more accurately, the spiritual order of creation, responds to that shift. Doors open that once seemed closed. People appear who align with your new frequency. Opportunities start to find you because belief has positioned you to receive them. And here's the beauty. You don't need perfect belief. You just need enough. Even a mustard seed of faith can move mountains. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start believing that change is possible for you. Because once belief takes root, it grows. It becomes conviction, and conviction will take farther than motivation ever could. So if you're ready for change, start with your belief. Audit your thoughts. Challenge your inner dialogue. Speak truth even when you don't feel it yet. Affirm who you're becoming, not who you've been. Because your belief sets the direction for your becoming. Change doesn't start with effort, it starts with identity. When you believe differently, you live differently. When you know who you are, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop playing small. You start showing up in alignment with your purpose. And when your belief matches your destiny, your reality has no choice but to shift. Change begins in belief, and once belief is transformed, everything else follows. Change, it's not a moment. It's a movement inside of you. When we talk about the power to change, we're not just talking about fixing something that's broken. We're talking about awakening something that's been buried. Because the power to change was never out there. It was always in you. You can't step into new power with an old identity. The version of you that got you here cannot take you there. There's a version of you that's waiting on the other side of surrender, the one that doesn't second guess purpose, that doesn't apologize for calling, that doesn't negotiate worth. That version of you already exists. It's waiting for your permission to emerge. But to meet that version, you've got to walk through discomfort. Because discomfort is not your enemy, it's your evolution in disguise. You don't grow in the places that make you feel good. You grow in the places that make you stretch. When God allows pressure in your life, it's not to break you, it's to build you. Pressure is the proof that you're being prepared for greater capacity. You are not stuck, you are being stretched. And stretching always comes before strength. And then, once you're stretched, once you've been refined by the fire, you start to see the truth that change doesn't begin with what you do, it begins with what you believe. Because you can't live beyond the level of your belief. Everything you experience, everything you attract, everything you create, it all flows from what you've agreed to believe about yourself. That's why transformation starts in the mind and manifests in the movement. When your beliefs shift, your behavior follows. When your identity aligns with truth, your destiny responds. So maybe today, the change you're praying for isn't waiting on a miracle. Maybe it's waiting on you. Waiting on you to release who you were, to endure what's uncomfortable, and to believe something new. Because the truth is, you already have the power to change. Not because you're perfect, but because you're becoming. You are being shaped, stretched, and sculpted into the person you were designed to be before life tried to tell you otherwise. Change is not punishment, it's permission. It's permission to evolve. Permission to grow beyond the limits of your past. Permission to live unashamed in your authenticity. So wherever you are right now, in the middle of transition, in the tension between who you were and who you're becoming, don't run from it. Don't despise it. Embrace it. Because that tension is holy. that discomfort is divine, that stretching is sacred. It means God's hand is on your life, molding you into something you haven't yet imagined. You are the evidence that transformation is possible. The fact that you're still here, still standing, still seeking, that's proof that power is working in you. So walk in that power, speak from that power, live from that power. Because the power to change isn't coming, it's already here. It's in your mind, it's in your mouth, it's in your spirit. And when you finally believe that, nothing, and I mean nothing, can stop you from becoming everything you were created to be.